Tonight, somewhere on the African savanna, a lion will hear a human voice drifting through the darkness and hesitate. Not because another lion is nearby, not because a rival predator has entered its territory, but because, over countless generations, one lesson has been burned into the instincts of predators across the world. Humans are dangerous. That reaction feels almost ordinary today. Lions retreat, wolves avoid us. Even bears often think twice before approaching. To us, it seems natural that wild animals fear people. But for most of our evolutionary history, nothing about that outcome was inevitable. Imagine seeing the first humans from a predator's perspective. No claws, no fangs, no thick hide, no massive muscles, no incredible speed. Standing upright in the open grasslands, they would have looked strangely vulnerable, almost unfinished. Compared with a lion, a leopard, or even a pack of wild dogs, humans seemed hopelessly unequipped for survival. If evolution were a competition based purely on physical strength, our ancestors should have disappeared long before they ever spread across the planet. Yet, something extraordinary happened. Today, the descendants of those seemingly fragile primates have become the only hunters capable of threatening virtually every large animal on Earth. So how did that happen? How did a creature that couldn't outrun an antelope, couldn't overpower a zebra, and couldn't survive a single bite from a lion become the most feared hunter the natural world has ever known? The answer isn't hidden inside sharper weapons. It isn't hidden inside bigger muscles. And it certainly isn't hidden inside raw speed. In fact, if you challenged almost any large animal to a race, you would lose before the contest had truly begun. A pronghorn antelope can sprint at nearly 60 miles per hour. A zebra accelerates faster than an Olympic athlete. Even an average deer can vanish into the distance before you've taken more than a few strides. Compared with the fastest runners of the animal kingdom, humans are remarkably slow. So why are we still here? While millions of those faster animals have spent thousands of years trying and failing to escape us. That question puzzled scientists for decades, because the more researchers examined the human body, the stranger it became. Many of our physical features didn't seem to make much sense. Our legs are unusually long. Our feet contain powerful spring-like arches. Our Achilles tendons are far larger than those of our closest primate relatives. And then there are the glute muscles. For everyday walking, they contribute surprisingly little, but the moment you begin running, they become essential, stabilizing your entire body with every stride. Why would evolution invest so much energy building a body with features that seem almost unnecessary unless you spend long periods running? For years, there wasn't a satisfying answer. Then, in 2004, two evolutionary biologists, Dennis Bramble and Daniel Lieberman, proposed an idea that completely changed how scientists viewed the human body. Their research, published in Nature, suggested something remarkable. Perhaps humans were never designed to be fast. Perhaps we had been asking the wrong question all along. Instead of wondering why humans couldn't outrun other animals, we should have been asking why humans could keep running long after nearly everything else had stopped. It was a simple shift in perspective, but it changed everything. Because evolution wasn't trying to create the fastest hunter, it was creating the last one still moving. At first, that sounds almost impossible. How could a slow, upright primate defeat animals built for explosive speed? It seems to violate everything we think we know about hunting. But the answer begins under the blazing midday sun, where the greatest advantage in nature isn't always speed. Sometimes, it's refusing to stop. And once you understand what happens during those long hours beneath the African heat, you'll begin to see why some of the fastest animals on Earth were never actually running away from humans. They were running straight into the trap our ancestors had evolved for hundreds of thousands of years to create. Picture the scene. The sun hangs almost directly overhead, turning the African savanna into an ocean of shimmering heat. The ground is dry enough to crack beneath your feet. Every breath feels warm. Even the wind offers no relief. Most predators have already retreated into the shade. This is the worst possible time to hunt. At least, that's what almost every animal believes, but not your ancestors. A small group of hunters spots an antelope grazing in the distance. The animal notices them instantly. Within seconds, it explodes into motion. Dust erupts beneath its hooves, a few powerful leaps, and it's gone. If you were watching from a nearby hill, you would probably assume the hunt was over before it had even begun. The antelope had won. Or so it seemed. The humans don't panic. They don't sprint after it. They don't waste energy trying to match an animal that is obviously faster. Instead, they begin to walk. Calmly. Patiently. Almost casually. Then, after a few moments, they settle into a slow, steady jog. Not fast enough to exhaust themselves, not slow enough to lose the trail, just fast enough to keep moving, hour after hour if necessary. At first glance, it looks absurd. Why chase something you can never catch? But that's only true if you believe speed is the only thing that matters. The real contest has already changed. It's no longer about who runs faster. It's about who can keep running. This is where the human body begins to reveal a secret that evolution spent millions of years perfecting. Every stride stretches the long Achilles tendon like a tightly wound spring. Instead of relying entirely on muscle, your body recycles part of the energy from the previous step, making each stride surprisingly efficient. Your glute muscles stabilize your torso, keeping your upper body balanced while your legs absorb the endless rhythm beneath you. Your neck remains remarkably steady, allowing your eyes to stay locked on distant tracks instead of bouncing wildly with every footstep. Taken individually, none of these features seem extraordinary. Together, they tell a completely different story. They don't describe a sprinter, they describe an endurance runner. Dennis Bramble and Daniel Lieberman argued that these weren't random evolutionary accidents. They were pieces of a body gradually shaped for one purpose, covering enormous distances without breaking down. But perhaps the greatest advantage wasn't hidden in our muscles at all. It was hidden in something most people barely think about: sweat. Humans possess millions of sweat glands spread across almost the entire surface of the body. Compared with nearly every other large mammal, that's an astonishing number. When your body heats up, those glands release moisture that evaporates from your skin, carrying heat away with it. It's such a normal part of daily life that most of us consider it an inconvenience. We wipe it away, we complain about it, we buy products designed to stop it. Yet, hundreds of thousands of years ago, sweat may have been one of the most powerful hunting tools our ancestors ever possessed. Evolutionary biologist David Carrier spent years studying this remarkable cooling system. His research suggests that the combination of reduced body hair and extensive sweating gave humans an extraordinary ability to remain active in extreme heat while many other mammals approached their physical limits. Now think about the antelope again. It can sprint far faster than any human. For the first few hundred meters, the contest isn't even close. But speed creates another problem. Running at full power generates enormous amounts of heat. Unlike humans, four-legged mammals face a difficult trade-off. Their primary cooling system is panting, but effective panting becomes difficult during an all-out gallop because every powerful stride compresses and expands the chest in rhythm with the movement. The faster they run, the harder it becomes to dump excess heat efficiently. Eventually, the antelope has no choice. It slows down, it stops, it breathes, its heart pounds, its body struggles to cool itself before continuing, and just as its breathing begins to settle, the humans appear again. Not charging, not shouting, simply jogging. Still coming. The antelope bolts once more, another sprint, another desperate escape, another wave of rising body temperature, then another stop, then another chase. Again, and again, and again. With every cycle, the animal spends more energy than it can recover. With every cycle, the hunters lose almost nothing except time. Slowly, almost invisibly, the balance begins to shift. The fastest animal in the landscape is no longer winning because this was never a race measured in seconds. It was a battle measured in endurance. And no creature on the African plains was better prepared for that battle than the seemingly fragile primates who simply refused to quit. But this raises an even bigger question. Did ancient humans really hunt this way? Or is this simply an elegant theory built from fossils and imagination? The answer lies thousands of miles away, in one of the harshest deserts on Earth, where a handful of hunters continued practicing a method that most of humanity had forgotten. The Kalahari Desert doesn't forgive mistakes. Stretching across parts of Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa, it's a landscape of blistering heat, scarce water, and endless stretches of scrubland. By midday, the temperature can climb high enough to force even powerful predators into the shade. For most animals, survival means conserving energy. For one group of people, it once meant the exact opposite. Among the San people of the Kalahari, some hunters practiced a technique so unusual that early outsiders struggled to believe it was real. There were no horses, no traps waiting in the distance, no hidden ambushes, only a hunter, and a pair of footprints disappearing across the sand. Anthropologist Louis Liebenberg spent years documenting these hunts, walking alongside sand trackers to understand a skill that had almost vanished from the modern world. What he witnessed wasn't luck. It wasn't reckless persistence. It was an astonishing display of observation, memory, and patience. The hunt began long before anyone started running. A single footprint could reveal whether an animal was healthy or injured. The depth of an impression hinted at its weight. The spacing between tracks suggested its speed. A broken blade of grass. A freshly disturbed stone. A branch bent ever so slightly in one direction. To an untrained eye, the landscape looked empty. To an experienced tracker, it was filled with information. Every mark told a part of a story. Every step answered a question while raising another. Which direction did the herd turn? Which individual was slowing down? How long ago did they pass through? The hunter wasn't simply following an animal. He was reconstructing its decisions. Only after choosing the right target did the pursuit truly begin. The animal exploded into the distance exactly as expected. The hunter never tried to match that first burst of speed. He knew he couldn't. Instead, he trusted something far more reliable. Time. The chase unfolded exactly as evolution had prepared it to. The antelope sprinted until the heat became unbearable. It stopped to recover. Minutes later, the hunter appeared again. Not close enough to attack, just close enough to force another desperate escape. Then the pattern repeated. Again. 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 Hour after hour, the hunter remained almost unchanged. The prey did not. Its breathing grew heavier. Its movements became less controlled. Its powerful muscles, designed for explosive acceleration, slowly turned against it as heat accumulated faster than it could escape. Eventually, there came a moment when the antelope simply couldn't run anymore. Not because it had been injured, not because it had been cornered. Its own body had reached its limit. The hunter walked the final distance. Only then was the animal killed. No dramatic battle, no heroic charge, just the quiet conclusion to a contest that had been decided long before the final moments. Liebenberg documented hunts lasting more than 2 hours and covering over 20 miles across unforgiving terrain. To many people today, those distances sound almost unbelievable, yet they reveal something profound about our species. Ancient humans didn't dominate nature by being stronger than other animals. They dominated by understanding the rules better. And that difference changes everything. Now imagine you aren't the hunter. Imagine you're a lion watching this unfold from the shade. At first, the scene seems almost amusing. A handful of slow, upright creatures are chasing an antelope they have no chance of catching. You've seen faster hunters fail. You've seen stronger predators lose. So you wait. Minutes pass. Then, an hour. The antelope is still running. The humans are still following. Another hour passes. Now something feels wrong. The antelope begins to stumble. The humans don't. Eventually, the fastest animal in sight collapses. The slowest animals simply walk toward it. No claws, no ambush, no explosive attack, only relentless pressure that never ends. If you were that lion, what would you conclude? You wouldn't see weak creatures. You would see something completely unfamiliar. A predator that defeats speed without being fast. A hunter that wins without overpowering its prey. A species that seems incapable of giving up. From that moment on, every encounter with humans carries a new calculation. Is this really a fight worth taking? Over thousands of generations, predators that avoided unnecessary conflicts with humans were more likely to survive than those that underestimated them. Little by little, caution became an advantage. And eventually, that caution became instinct. Even today, in many parts of Africa, experienced lions are noticeably more wary of humans than of animals many times our size. Not because we are physically intimidating, but because history has taught them a lesson written over hundreds of thousands of years. Still, endurance alone cannot explain humanity's extraordinary rise. Running could bring hunters within reach of their prey, but something else had to finish the job. Something invisible. Something carried not in the legs, but inside the human mind. Endurance brought humans within reach of their prey, but endurance alone never made us the most successful hunters on Earth. A wolf can chase, a wild dog can chase. Even lions are capable of pursuing wounded prey for long distances when they have to. So what made humans different? The answer wasn't hidden in stronger legs. It was hidden in a brain that could see the future, not in a supernatural sense, but in an extraordinary ability to predict what would happen next. Imagine you're following an exhausted antelope across the savanna. It disappears over a hill. For a few moments, you can't see it anymore. Most predators would simply continue following the freshest scent or the most obvious tracks. Your ancestors did something different. They asked questions. Where will it go next? Will it head toward water? Will it choose open ground where it can spot danger from far away? Or will it seek shade, hoping to lower its body temperature before the hunters arrive again? Every answer changed the direction of the hunt. This wasn't blind persistence. It was strategy. Every footprint became a clue. Every broken branch became evidence. Every decision the animal made became another piece of a puzzle unfolding across the landscape. Modern archaeologists often describe this as one of humanity's greatest evolutionary advantages. Tracking wasn't simply following footprints, it was reconstructing an invisible story. A hunter looked at the ground and imagined events that had already happened. An animal paused here, it became startled there, it began running faster, then slower, then turned toward the valley. Long before written language existed, the human brain was already telling stories. Only these stories weren't entertainment. They were survival. The ability to imagine an animal's next move before it happened transformed hunting into something no other predator could match. By combining endurance with prediction, humans no longer reacted to nature. They stayed one step ahead of it, and over thousands of generations, that ability reached far beyond hunting. The same brain that tracked an antelope across the savanna eventually learned to predict the seasons, to remember distant waterholes, to plan journeys weeks in advance, to cooperate with dozens of other people toward a single goal. In many ways, the hunt became a training ground for the human mind itself. Perhaps that's why the greatest weapon our ancestors ever carried wasn't a spear. It wasn't a sharpened stone. It wasn't even fire. It was the ability to think beyond the present moment, to imagine, to predict, to prepare. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, an extraordinary pattern begins to emerge. Humans never became Earth's most feared hunters because we were the strongest. We weren't. We never became the fastest. We couldn't. And we certainly weren't born with the natural weapons that dominate the animal kingdom. Instead, evolution took a completely different path. While other predators invested in sharper claws, we invested in longer legs. While they evolved larger teeth, we evolved larger imaginations. While they relied on explosive bursts of power, we became masters of patience. That combination changed the history of life on Earth. By the time early humans spread beyond Africa, they carried something no other species possessed. A body capable of moving for hours, a cooling system built for relentless pursuit, and a mind that could solve problems before they even appeared. Together, those traits allowed our ancestors to hunt animals far larger than themselves, survive environments that defeated stronger competitors, and eventually expand into nearly every ecosystem on the planet. The lion learned. The wolf learned. The bear learned. Generation after generation, predators that underestimated humans often paid the highest possible price. Those that kept their distance survived. Over time, fear itself became part of nature. So, the next time you go for a run, or notice sweat dripping down your face on a hot afternoon, or Catch yourself predicting what someone else is about to do. Remember that these ordinary moments are echoes of an ancient world. Your body is carrying adaptations shaped across hundreds of thousands of years. Your brain is still using abilities that once meant the difference between eating and starving. The remarkable truth is that the world's greatest predator didn't conquer nature through overwhelming strength. It conquered through persistence, through intelligence, through cooperation, and through an almost unbelievable refusal to stop moving forward. So tonight, somewhere on the African savanna, a lion may hear a human voice carried by the wind. It will pause, it will listen, and more often than not, it will quietly turn away. Not because humans are the biggest animals, not because we are the fastest, but because for hundreds of thousands of years, evolution taught the natural world a lesson it has never forgotten. The most dangerous hunter was never the one that ran the fastest. It was the one that simply never stopped.